Hey, it's Luke from LT Gaming, and every now and then we stumble across a space game that makes me stop and go, hang on, why is nobody talking about this? Because today I'm taking a look at StarWraith Command, a new indie space combat sim from StarWraith 3D Games. This one caught me completely off guard. In a world where plenty of games arrive on Steam barely held together by duct tape, hope and a roadmap written in crayon, this thing already has fully voiced tutorials, a proper combat model, a mission editor, dynamic battle modes, detailed ship fitting, and one of the most interesting flight models I've played in a space sim for a long time. If you also enjoy finding these weird, ambitious indie projects before everyone else does, give the video a like. Think of it as rerouting a little extra shield power to the algorithm before we take incoming fire. And keep watching, because later in the video I'll also tell you how you can actually play StarWraith Command right now for free. Ooh, that's very naughty of me, I have to say. At its core, this is a first-person 3D space combat simulator with a very deliberate old-school flavour. The official site for this game frames it as a return to that retro 90s style of space combat, but with modern systems layered on top. You're going to be part of the Alliance Navy here, flying combat missions across planets, asteroids, fields, nebulas, stars and deep space battlefields, while also commanding a squadron and trying to keep the wider fight under control. I mean, why did nobody show me this game before? The best way I can describe the feel is that it sits somewhere between a space sim and mech warrior. Not because you're stomping around in a giant mech obviously, but because of how much emphasis there is on fitting out your machine before battle. You're configuring ships with different weapons, missiles, equipment, armor, heat sinks of course, and save loadouts. Then taking that setup into combat and seeing whether it actually works, and a lot of the time in my case it didn't. But it definitely has that one more tweak feeling you get from Battletech and Mech Warrior. Whether you're adding guns, heat sinks, or less armor, more armor, it's all pretty cool. The first thing that really impressed me is just how complete this feels for a game that is still in testing. To be clear, it is still in development, so there will be bugs, balancing and rough edges. But even now there's a level of care here that I really respected. The tutorials are all fully voiced, genuinely useful, and honestly put some much bigger games to shame. Because they actually teach you how to fly, fight, manage shields, use your systems and understand what the game is asking from you. And that matters to me because StarWraith Command has got a lot going on. You've got a campaign, multiplayer, dynamic warfare, a full integrated mission editor, squadron orders, ship customization and tactical combat systems that already feel surprisingly deep. Dynamic warfare generates battle scenarios around selected parameters and performance, giving battles a bit more context and consequence, while the mission editor lets players design, edit, launch and potentially share custom missions. I mean guys, for a niche indie space combat sim that is a pretty serious package already. And I play all the great space sims, X4, Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, okay, maybe that isn't in the great category, and sometimes I do punish myself by loading that game up. I tell myself just to see if it's ready yet, and it's still not. And then I play something like StarWraith Command, and I'm zipping around, shooting things out the sky, landing on big carriers. It was glorious, to be honest. The real heart of StarWraith Command is the flight model and combat. This is proper Newtonian style space flying with 6 degrees of freedom, inertia, drifting, rotation and momentum that actually feels like you're fighting in zero gravity. But the seriously clever bit for me is that it feels intuitive enough to start learning quite quickly, but tough enough that mastering it is clearly going to take some time. The other Newtonian flight model games that spring to my mind are Helium Rain, In the Black and Infinity Battlescape, and this is the best of the bunch when it comes to the flight model and the tutorials that surround it. The combat also has some genuinely clever ideas, with manual shield control that turns defense into something active rather than passive. It's almost like a fencing system where you're choosing direction, timing, duration and energy while under fire. Then you've got manual cannon aiming, where particle and beam weapons can be aimed separately from basic flight control, giving the dogfighting a very different rhythm. In this sense, it reminded me a little Freelancer in spirit, but with a more demanding sim layer wrapped around it. Then on top of that, you can add line of sight signal tracking and localized damage for very physical battles. And if a target ducks behind an asteroid or larger ship, you can lose the signal. Missile locks can break and you may need to reacquire them, but you can also use that same system defensively to shake attackers. Damage is also split across different areas of the ship, so hits to the forward hull, main hull, left or right side can affect thrusters, equipment, weapons and handling. So basically when your ship gets hurt, it doesn't just lose health, it starts to feel wounded, uneven and harder to survive in. I mean, for an indie space space sim, there's a lot going on here and you have to praise it. I did all the tutorials, which were great. I jumped into the campaign, which I'm about 6 or 7 missions into, and I tried out the dynamic warfare mode, which is just really cool. And there's just so much going on here, and I just can't believe these sorts of great developers are hidden, or at least not talked about as much as they should be. Just a quick interlude to say most of you who watch the channel are not subscribed. So make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button, because it helps smaller channels like us grow really quickly, and both me and Tom really appreciate it. And on that note, I think it's worth quickly talking about where this game sits in the broader StarWraith 3D games catalogue. If the name sounds familiar, the developer's been making space sims for quite a long time. But in more recent history, Arvoch Alliance SE is another first-person space combat sim focused on squadron command, military missions, Newtonian-style physics, and tactical combat. This one's much closer to what StarWraith Command wants to be. The DNA is very similar. I played about 20 hours of it, it's really fun, and honestly, if you want to check this one out also, I'd encourage you to do so. Then there's the bigger one, Evochron Legacy SE, which is a broader open world space sim with combat, trading, exploration, survival, ship management, mining, station building, and a much more freeform pilot career structure. Also, there's a couple of really good Star Trek mods made by a member of our Discord called Krusty Bread. You should check those out. So StarWraith Command feels like it's taking the combat side of this heritage and really drilling down into it. It's definitely less go anywhere and do anything and more you are a combat pilot, here is your squadron, here is your ship, here is the battle, now prove you can actually fly. But you never know what he's going to add to this if we can drum up enough support here. But I do respect the vision. Not every space sim needs to be the entire galaxy in a box. Sometimes it's better for a game to know exactly where it wants to be and then push hard in that direction. Now, with all that said, StarWraith Command is not going to be for everyone. The biggest thing to understand is that it's very combat focused. If you're coming from something like Evochron Legacy with that wider open mercenary life, in comparison this may feel a little bit smaller. To be honest, that doesn't make it worse in any way, but it does mean you need to go in expecting a focused space combat sim rather than a giant sandbox career game at this stage. And then mission variety is something I'd like to see continue developing as the game moves forward. There are lots of different mission objectives already, but I think more diversity in missions always makes these games great. But the dynamic warfare mode does help to offset that. Visually, this also isn't competing with the biggest space sims on raw graphical spectacle, but it can still look great in motion, especially when shields are flashing, missiles are flying, and you're desperately trying not to bounce sideways into an asteroid with half your ship already damaged. And here's the really cool part, you can actually play StarWraith Command right now. The game is currently in open beta, and the latest test build is available through the official StarWraith Command website, with a couple of different download links available. So this is not one of those games where you just wishlist it, forget about it, and then maybe you hear about it in 3 years. And we're not guilty of that at all here at LT Gaming. You can go and try it now. And you know what, I genuinely recommend you doing that if you're into space sims, because even if some parts are still rough, there is already enough here to make it worth your time. Especially if you're the kind of player who cares about flight models, combat systems, ship configuration, and those little sim details that make a game feel like it was built by someone who really understands the genre. Let's see how we can support this dev and really boost his game. I've just enjoyed my time with it, and I mean, a free open beta, who does that these days? So overall, LT Gamers, StarWraith Command has been a really lovely surprise for me. It's focused, ambitious, clearly built by someone who understands space combat. That sounds like they've been up there doing it, but you know what I mean. And it already feels more complete in some areas than much bigger games I've played in testing. Yes, of course it still needs work. Yes, it's very combat focused, and no, the graphics are not going to melt your GPU into a puddle. I mean, sometimes that's a bonus. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to say, the other games are some of the best space sims you can play in VR, and this I think is going to be the same if he includes that option. See, this is why you need to stay to the end of the videos, in case I forget stuff. The flight model is absolutely excellent, the tutorials are genuinely impressive, and the shield system is clever. Fitting out your ships have depth and is going to be a real pull for those MechWarrior and Battletech fans, and it has that proper indie sim energy I love finding for this channel. To be clear, this is not sponsored in any way, I'm doing this because I love these projects and LT Gaming really enjoys supporting them. So do that, go and support the open beta, test it, fly in the Discord, let me know what you think. I might even do a little key giveaway the next few days in the Discord, so pop in. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe for more space sims, strategy games, and indie projects worth watching. I've been Luke from LT Gaming, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.